Thomas number 5 by Venice Beach. So when we moved in with our daddy, I was in like fifth or sixth grade, and went to Marina Del Rey Junior High School, yay, and had to get rides from my daddy or take buses. And it was so cold in the morning to take buses, and you had to wait for them and all that. But they had school buses, so we didn't have to take city buses. But that was just really strange because my mom always took us to school, or we took school buses sometimes, or walked because we were always pretty close to schools. So when my parents were still married and we had the big house in Seal Beach, the brand new house and everything my dad had built, um, I was everywhere. We had nannies, live-in nannies. They were Mexican, and it was like none of them spoke English, none. And so that was definitely a learning experience. Um, and it was boring. My parents were at work, and we were at home all day, and it was just boring. Except for when they would make us really good food, like burritos and stuff, and cook the tortilla on the stove, And we had electric stove then, and we had one of the most expensive houses on the street. I mean, really nice, really really nice. My dad always, had the best, and I don't doubt the Navy helped finance that or whatever, or approved the bank funding to build it or whatever. But it was a brand new house. This house didn't even have grass; it was dirt. My grandfather planted the grass at that house. Um, and but it was a pretty nice house in a really nice area, right next to the Navy base. And I was everywhere. And sometimes with my baby sister tagging along, and um, I was down the street at my beau. There was my little beau, Courtney, and I think his name was Roberts was the last name, and his parents had a really nice, like wood-looking house, two-story, and he had a really cool hand-built tree house in the backyard, way high up. I was part of the treehouse club, and I made the boys' initiation. That's another long story. And I used to go down there a lot because he had like hamsters and stuff like that. And I would be there for the birthing of the hamsters, and I loved holding them and all that stuff. And today they just gross me out. I don't like any of that rat stuff. But anyway, but I was into all that when I was little. I liked lizards and iguanas, and I thought they were just really super neat. And so I was everywhere. Used to take and 50 cents. It was 25 cents or a quarter, and you could go down to the school down the street, across the highway, and go to McGaw at the high school. And they had a swimming pool, and you could swim in it till it closed at night. And I used to go down there and swim all the way till closing and walk home by myself. That was a big thing. Um, I loved doing that. And they played loud music, they had speakers. It was really fun. Lots of people. That was back in the day and age when it was like, you know, if, if you walked down the street and you were a little kid, it wasn't like people were coming after you to rape you and cut you up in a million pieces. It was pretty safe. All the neighbors knew you. All the neighbors knew your parents. It wasn't in the country. It was city. Very nice city. Seal Beach, California. So, you know, I even rode my bicycle several times all the way from Seal Beach to Long Beach to my parents' sailing school, which freaked my mother completely out one day. That I had actually ridden all the way from the house over the bridge and everything on my little bicycle because I felt like going to visit her work. And then I did it lots of times after that. um, uh, if you ask my baby sister, she just thinks I was just like the total alien, the total black sheep. She just thinks I was really off the wall. I don't think so. I mean, a lot of those they were really great memories, and really helped mold me into a person. Um, but anyway, and yes, I got a lot of spankings, lots of times. I was always in trouble, and uh, to this day, I don't know why, but anyway. But uh, so I was used to wandering about since I was really little. My mom used to leave us in the car when she'd go do interviews or whatever, and it might be a couple hours, and we were just tiny. And today you can't do that. Today you can't leave your kids alone if they're like under 15 and stuff like that. Um, all that stuff's against the law and it's not safe and all that kind of thing. So, but back then, I mean, it was like nothing to be what they called a latchkey kid, where you had the key around your neck on a string, put down your shirt. So when you got off the school bus, then you had keys to get in the house and you were told to lock the house, as soon as you got in, and you had your phone number next to the phone to reach your parents at work or whatever, and then they would be home shortly, Um, that was very common back then. And I'm talking when you were little bitty, 7, 8 years old. So, because we were grown up kind of kids. Um, I mean, you knew if you did something fatally wrong, you're going to get your butt whipped. And that Navy belt was one of my greatest fears. That was most of my life with my father when my parents were married. Was all I ever knew was kissing him goodbye to go on the ship often, and then when he came home, the first thing, like within the first hour, was my mother would tell him all bad things I did, and then he would take the belt off and whip my butt. And that's about all I remember when my parents were married. Um, I mean, we did have some great fun trips and things, but so I was one of those who was very capable of running loose on my own. I sold, greeting cards for the school and candy bars. Remember that? Where your parents have to go with you to pick up cases of candy bars or cases of these greeting cards from American Greeting Card Company. And then you have to sell so many, and you're supposed to win a bicycle and all this stuff. And it was like, man, I'll get the top prize. And it's like, you just have to sell so much stuff. Well, I was gangbusters for all that. Going door to door didn't bother me a bit. And I was at every single door, and I could talk them into buying at least one. And that was back when people didn't like phone calls for soliciting. They didn't like people knocking on their door going, hi, you want to buy some light bulbs or a vacuum? I was game for it. And plus, we were cute. And I think that's a lot of reasons that people would buy from us if I had my baby sister with me and that or that. Was because we were cute. And who could resist them to buy at least one from those two cute little kids? My mother was a Brownie troop leader at one time, and we were in the Brownie troop. Um, and I had a big dream of being in Girl Scouts, and I wanted to be a ballerina, do ballet. But I didn't want to be a professional ballerina dancer. I wanted to do ballet and have toe shoes. We did tap dance class. My mother sent me to all kinds of stuff. So went horseback riding for a whole day. My mother would drop us off at the horseback place in Orange County and pay for a whole day for us to ride horses. And then she would come back to get us, when she closed the sailing school. Um, she would drop us off at the mall in Seal Beach and give us both $20 each. And we just did that all day. And then went to the Fox Cinema for a quarter. And you could, especially on Sunday, you could watch like 3 or 4 matinees, of like Disney cartoons and a Disney movie and all that stuff. And it was really exciting, And so, and then all we had to do was be, a certain time, to watch for, mommy to come up in that baby blue Cadillac or that blue and white Jeep to come get us. We had to be ready, and we could show her all our little goodies that we bought in stores or whatever. And I mean, $20 went a long way, and we both got $20 each. It's pretty cool. So I was good at being on my own kind of thing since really little. It was a stylish thing to do. My friends were the same way. The kids I grew up around, Courtney could wander down the streets. Everybody could wander down the streets. My friend Paula Gallion, who lived 2 or 3 streets over, with her mother and her grandmother. Her grandmother sewed um, and made clothes. And I don't know if they had their own store, they did it for somebody else, but they had racks and racks of clothes too. Like my friend later, years later, Michelle Tillis, her mother sewed and apparently had a shop. But uh, we were all just everywhere. It was nothing to wander down to your friend's house and go hang out for a few hours. You'd call your parents and go, okay, I'm over at Paula's house hanging out, or I'm over at Courtney's house hanging out. And it was just the thing. So it was nothing to go, you know, use that footmobile and go visit a friend or hang out. And so, anyway, when I moved in with my daddy, um, I was like fifth or sixth grade. My parents were long since divorced, and um, we left our mom. I had called my dad, and he comes saved us and everything. It's a long story, but anyway, my mom really fell upon very bad times, and financially, she just felt like she couldn't give us a better life, you know, which was a horrible thing to have to, decide that you're just not good enough financially to raise your children, that they could have a much better life. But the last thing in the world she'd want is for my daddy to have anything to do with us. Because for years I thought my daddy was dead. She had told us he had died. My grandfather had later told me that he was still alive and gave me the phone number and all this. It's a long story. But anyway, so we went to go live with my daddy. And it was, a long trip. You know, it wasn't like walkable to walk from daddy's house, or the boat or the sailing school to, where mommy was at grandpa's house in Artesia. Um, so we were definitely distanced, and we really didn't have any visitation from my mother because my father wouldn't permit it. And it got to the point where my mother got really psychedelic over the deal. And, whenever she did appear at our schools or whatever, um, she would get really excited and just be fighting with daddy. And it was like we would run and hide. Because, I mean, that's kind of some of the stuff we grew up with. And I was so glad that my parents divorced because they just didn't get along at home. But they were fantastic in business. And so, anyway, when we went to live with my daddy, uh, yeah, that was like Disneyland, man. There was so much cool stuff. The beach was right there. There was another beach that was right there. We were basically surrounded by water in Marina Del Rey. My dad had started a sailing business just like right after he left my mom, and he started his own sailing school. And it was nothing like the one my parents had. Nothing. It was run out of a closet under a stairwell in a business building. It was the weirdest thing. But basically, that's all he really needed because all the teaching was done on the boats. All he needed was a phone, a schedule, phone with an answering machine, and a calendar, and a bank account, you know, and a credit card machine. And so it was very successfully run for a while like that. And I thought it was so goofy. Even to this day, it's like, oh my gosh. But now you got people running businesses out of storage, units and all kinds of things nowadays. Rented parts of business offices that you rent by the day or whatever and stuff like that, so you can hold meetings and conference rooms. I mean, it's changed through the years. So anyway, I was like fifth or sixth grade, and I was always into the money making end of it. I started collecting postage stamps, and my dad or his girlfriend Jilly, every time we'd go to like Save On Drugstore, I would go through the stamp collection over there and look at whatever they had, and I'd get to buy a package of stamps. It was like probably $10, And you could see through the plastic package. They want a big piece of cardboard 8x10 kind of thing, so I could put some more stuff in my stamp collection, and which I still have to this day. Thank God, it was one of the things that I did get out of those storages that were stolen in Bama. I do have my original stamp collection. Even though they aren't worth crap, that's another long story I'll tell you later. Bad investment. Oh, they tell you that it's worth so much, and it's just the worst investment you'll ever make is wasting money on postage stamps. I should have been collecting coins, but anyway, so which I did have a coin collection, but my dad never has given it to me. That was all the half dollars and whole dollar coins that my grandfather would give to me every time we would visit him when we were little bitty kids, and I've always saved them. And they were silver dollars and stuff. And when we moved in with my dad, I gave him this paper bag, and he's like, "Wow!" And he put them in a little safe deposit box up in the top of the closet, and I have never got them back to this day. Um, which breaks my heart because my grandpa gave me each one of those, and it was just so exciting for that big silver coin. Wow, you know. And so anyway, I was, and so fifth or sixth grade, my dad was always teaching sailing, and most of the time till late at night. He taught at UCLA, SMC, several of the different surrounding colleges and stuff, on top of his own business, and then lectured at the boat shows and had booths there. And then he also did lecture and classes out at the Griffith Observatory, which was a big thing. And God, that was still late at night. Ugh. And we heard it over and over and over again. It's like you could repeat every word that Daddy said because it was in our heads. We'd heard it so many times. And so, he had no place to put us. We usually had to go with him to work. And so, anyway, when I would get out of school, I'd take the school bus home, which was one bus that went down like Washington Boulevard. Then it turned left right before you got to the sandbar, the biker bar that was right on the beach there at the beginning of like Venice Beach at Marina Del Rey. And it would turn left and go down like a little street there that was like via Marina. It would turn around and go down there, drop kids off there, then go by the breakwater and turn there and drive down there and then come back around via Marina, and then would go to the different streets and just drop you off at the corner. And after we moved off the Easy Rider and had an apartment, it would drop us off at Marquesas and via Marina. And so I would get off the bus over there by Sandbar, like one of the first stops. And then I would go down to Venice Beach and walk around, which was a big thing. And there was some interesting cats down there. This is where Robin Williams started with a tin can, getting tips, telling jokes on the beach, and being silly. And that's where Johnny Carson found him. This is where the guy with the big long braids, the black guy that was real thin, that was like on heroin or something, that used to play the electric guitar, that he was down there, that real famous guy that died. He was down there every day playing. It was like, dude, this guy's such a stoner, man. And you would laugh. You'd go, oh my gosh. And there were people doing like circus acts, like juggling or doing a little dancing. There was roller skate dancing, weightlifters, really cool places to eat, vendors that sold on the beach, like yard sale type stuff. Like they might have all new dresses, and all the dresses were like $5 for $25. You could buy tennis shoes, sunglasses. They had Elton John down there performing, the Beach Boys performing right there on the beach. And Venice Beach is just a tourism type place. There were some rough looking folks, and I can't say they were homeless. I just think they were just drunks and druggies that hung out and didn't work. And you just were careful to not get close to them. because they were just creepy, you know. They might grab you or something. And so you just knew, you know, kind of how to be a little streetwise, street tough. It didn't take a lot of thought to figure out, well, they look creepy, I should stay away from them or not talk to them or just wave as I walk by if they say something to me. So I kind of knew my way around. So anyway, I would get off that bus, and I was kind of a chunky girl after we left my mom and were living with my daddy. And so, um, uh, the greatest thing in the world was to have a hamburger with like chili and cheese and a beefsteak, tomato and lettuce and all that, and fresh cooked fries and milkshakes and stuff like that. That was the thing, man. That was the thing. And so, it was like, man, I couldn't wait because most of the schools have the sorriest lunch. I couldn't wait to go eat. And Daddy was gone teaching, so it's like he didn't know. So I would get off the bus at that first stop. That means I had to walk home a ways when I got done from over there. Unless I saw somebody that knew me through my dad's business and that, and they gave me a ride, like, hey, give me a ride. But most of the time I walked. Or I had my skateboard. Yay for my skateboard. Designed my own. That's right. And my daddy helped me build it. And so I would go over there to Thomas number 5, little hamburger shack, right down Washington Boulevard, pretty much across the way from the old Sandbar biker bar. And I would, I'd go up there and have, like a little bit of change on me, whatever, enough to get a burger and a shake or something, or a burger fry. And, they have the best burgers. Oh my gosh. Big old beef burgers, cooked right fresh in front of you. And a big beefsteak giant tomato. Oh my gosh. I like tomatoes with just salt on them and just eat them like apple. Ugh. And it was just so good. And so, like, a chili burger was just not really the thing. It was like chili dogs or chili. And somebody got me into that chili burger thing, where you like pour chili over burger, which makes it really messy, but it tastes really good. And so I would go up there, and the guy didn't speak real good English. He was probably Persian, and he was always real nice, black curly haired guy. And a lot of times I would get off that bus early and go over there. And so I told him, I said, I wanted this burger, and I wanted, like, you looked at the menu. It was a big hand painted wood menu above your head there. And I'd say, okay, I want this burger, and I want this on it, that on it, this on it. And he's like, I don't understand. And I said, well, I mean, that. I'm pointing at it. And he's like, here, come in, you make yourself. And I'm like, huh? He's like, you make yourself. I said, well, okay. So I went back there, and he was the only one there. And I told him what I want. I want this burger patty. I pointed to him, and the burger bun. And then he cooked it. And then, I said, okay, and then I want this on there, and I want this on there. As I liked pickles and lettuce and mustard and mayonnaise and ketchup, all the stuff, onions. I was not a real picky eater, okay? I like the traditional burger, you know what I mean? And these were huge burgers. And so he thought I was really funny when I would have chili on there and then a piece of cheese over the top melting on it. He thought that was really funny. And then, some fresh fries, and so then I would walk out of the back and come back to the front, and I would pay him, and he'd give me my food, and he was always very nice. Well, he got to be a very nice friend, and sometimes I'd bring one of my school friends and say, come on, you got to go have one of these burgers if you got a couple dollars. And so, I'd bring a friend. I always bring a friend, and then all I had to do was hurry and walk home, because, the rule was I had to be home before dark. And my dad didn't know I was at. And so then, one time I go over there and said hello, and I really didn't have much money. And he's like, you want me to make you a burger? And I was like, no, I don't have enough money today. He said, you watch, I'll be back. Do you mind? And I went, No, now I'm just a little kid, right? So dude takes off, for an hour or so, and so I am literally cooking and taking orders. I'm taking people's money, and it wasn't real busy. And you just get like one person at a time, and it was really fun. Now I never did pay me, but I got paid in food. So anytime I went near that place, okay, he'd say, can you work a little bit? And I'm like, sure. And it was like, dude, I knew I was getting some free food then. And then anytime that, I was, cruising with my friends at the beach or whatever, and I said, we got to go to Thomas number 5, man. It is the best burger around. And it was a nothing back then. It was just a burger shack with the name Thomas number 5. It wasn't crap. Now it's very famous. And they had later opened one up in Santa Monica. And I don't know what else they're doing. I imagine it's still in business today. Last time I checked, it was, and it was big time. Um, and so, anyway, that was my hangout, you know. And then, and so, when I bring friends up, if I wanted to feed 2 or 3 of my friends, he'd tell me, "You make it," and I'd go in there in the store. It was really funny, and I would go in there and I would cook all the food up that we wanted, and then I come back out. I need to hand it through the window for free. Well, basically because I worked for it, I guess, and they never paid me. So I had anything I wanted for years and years. And even after I grew up, I would go down there and I could still go over there and get free food and bring a friend and get free food. Always were very kind to me. And then there was also I don't know if Thomas moved down the street or it was another burger place down the street like 100 foot away. Can't remember how that went. It might have been Thomas that moved down there. But there was another one about 100 foot away on the same side of the street, closer to the beach. And uh, and all this stuff was like 300 foot from the beach. Period. It was right there at the end of Washington Boulevard. And so there was this other place on the same side that was all wood inside, covered patio, and you could go in there and order a burger. And then they had a pinball machine. Now I was the original pinball wizard. Oh my gosh! And if you played so many games in one, then you'd win a free hamburger. And I used to go in there all the time and roll that damn pinball machine and get free hamburgers. But yeah, so that was like my first non-paying job. And I was like in the 5th or 6th grade. Yep. And that's like, I guess, the only time I ever worked a hamburger joint. That was always a fear of mine, to have to work like a hamburger joint or Taco Bell or something fast food, McDonald's or something like that. It was like, no, never. So, and one, because everybody ever knew that worked in places like that, it was always problematic. They always fought. Food was never right, and it was like to the point you couldn't trust people making your food back then. It was real scary. You just, unless you could watch them making it. So yeah, that was like my first job without pay. Yeah. And then one day I got in big trouble, and my daddy showed up and in his Mercedes and was looking for me down on Venice Beach, because I don't know who told. It's probably my baby sister. Who knows? And it said I was hanging out at Venice Beach, and my dad was furious. And he found me over there, and I was playing pinball, for a free burger, and walked out of that joint. And my dad was like, "What are you doing? Why are you hanging out at Venice Beach?" And I'm like, he's like, "This is dangerous. This is a bad place." I'm like, "No, it's not. Man, when we lived in Seal Beach, my parents used to take us to the Pike in Long Beach. Do you know? Now, the Pike was really dirty, dangerous. And I went there years after I moved out of my dad's house. You had to really watch your butt, man. Long Beach was bad area. That was really bad area over there. But I loved the Pike, you know. But yeah, and Venice Beach was mild compared to all that. And you just knew better to stay away from stuff that looked creepy. And if anybody came up talking to you that was creepy and they looked all doped up and jacked up or whatever, dirty, whatever. You just kind of, you know, moved on. You know, you ignored them, you moved on, just kept going because you might get in trouble. So, you know, I was a big girl, you know, as far as I was concerned. So, yeah, that one time he caught me, boy, he was mad as fire, put me in that car. You are not allowed to hang out at Venice Beach. I'm like, I'm not doing anything. He's like, oh, that's drugs and drinking and all that stuff. And, you know, and I'm like, well, I'm not doing drugs and I'm not drinking. I come down to Venice Beach and you know, for the sights, to be next to the ocean, to walk into the water, you know, to see the entertainment on the boardwalk, you know. Um, I mean, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. And he was busy teaching. Like, really? But he did not like that, boy. He wanted to whip my butt for that. He was so mad that day. And I was like, God. I mean, I've been wandering around since I was a little kid, you know. I was fine, you know. Um, and so, anyway, I still went to Venice Beach. I didn't care. But then the rules changed. And then my next job, huh, kind of curbed my Venice Beach hangout time. Every once in a while, I would go in there. Uh, and it was okay because the trade was good. It was education. And there was a little money involved. Anyway, that's the next story. So do some kind for a stranger, and I promise we'll see you in the next one. I love ya. Have a great day.